It's time to recap the year in boxing. Joining me to do so, SI senior writer Chris Mannix. Now, Chris, Canelo Alvarez, dominant victory over Rocky Fielding to go with his win over Triple G. Is he pound for pound the best fighter in the world right now?
I don't think he's number one. On my list, I have him at number two. And even that, a lot of people in boxing think is a little bit too high. I think Vasily Lomachenko is a pretty clear number one. He's a guy that over the last couple of years has jumped up weight classes, won world titles. There are a lot of people who think that Terence Crawford deserves to be number two. I think Canelo's there because I think you have to look at resume. You mentioned Gennady Golovkin. I mean, he went up against boxing's boogeyman, and he stood toe-to-toe with him. That's on the heels of big wins over guys like Arislandi Lara, over Austin Trout. He may not be on the skill level of Terence Crawford. He certainly doesn't have the amateur background of a Terence Crawford. But right now, I would put Canelo just behind Lomachenko with a chance in 2019 to jump even higher.
Triple G Canelo, one of the fights of the year. You had Fury Wilder. What would you say is the fight of the year?
I mean, there have been some really good ones up until this point. Maybe it's a prisoner of the moment in some degree, but I look at Fury Wilder as being atop my list. I mean, the fact that Tyson Fury, given the breadth of the story, Tyson Fury, in only his third fight back after a 2.5-year layoff, fighting against boxing's biggest puncher, takes 2 knockdowns. The look of astonishment on Deontay Wilder's face when Tyson Fury got up, that continued after the fact. Days later, Deontay Wilder was talking incredulously.
To this day, he's still talking about
that this guy got up. So the fact that a true heavyweight fight between 2 top 3 heavyweights in boxing played out the way it did, I look at that as my fight of the year.
Now, you've weighed in on who you think is the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, but which boxer do you think had the best year? Those two things can be different.
They can be different. I think, the best year you can look at Canelo because he had the most significant win. I mean, Golovkin for like 5 or 6 years, he was untouchable. You couldn't even think of beating Gennady Golovkin. Not only did Canelo go in and beat him, but he beat him in a way nobody thought possible, which was taking the fight to him. The best year, though, it's got to be Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk, who he calls himself, he is, the cruiserweight champion, undisputed. He had 3 tough fights in 2018. He won the World Boxing Super Series. He became the first cruiserweight undisputed champion since 2006. Then he capitalizes on that by going to the UK and fighting Tony Bellew in front of 21,000 Brits and stops Tony Bellew. So not a household name, Usyk, but somebody who I think had the most significant year.
Who do you think's positioned to have the best 2019?
Honestly, I think Canelo is, because Canelo is aligned with DAZN now, right? And DAZN controls largely the middleweight division. They've got all 4 title holders effectively under contract when you include Demetrius Andrade and Danny Jacobs. Now, I talked to Canelo about this after his last fight, and I don't know if he's entirely motivated to be undisputed champion, but he has the opportunity right in front of him to do that at middleweight, to follow in the footsteps, so to speak, of Bernard Hopkins, his co-promoter with Golden Boy. So I think with those 2 fights there and the possibility that we could see a 3rd fight with Golovkin, I think Canelo is well-positioned to have a massive 2019.
You mentioned Wilder-Fury as your fight of the year. A rematch, who wins that?
I had this conversation with Freddie Roach, and Freddie insists that Tyson Fury is going to get better as he gets in better condition, and he'll be better than Deontay Wilder in the rematch. Wilder refuses to believe that. He believes his punches take a toll on a fighter, and he'll be a weaker guy. What I would say is this. If the fight takes place in the UK, I lean towards Tyson Fury. The home crowd, maybe 60,000 people in attendance for a fight like that. But if it takes place at Barclays Center or in Las Vegas, I think Wilder can get the stoppage.
What about Anthony Joshua? As Wilder and Fury are going to settle their score, what's the best fight for him? What makes sense for him?
Look, he's probably barreling towards a fight between the winner of Derek Chisora and Dillian Whyte. He and Dillian Whyte have fought in the past. It was a tough-ish fight for Joshua early in his career, and Whyte since then has gone on to do some reasonably significant things. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I mean, he's going to be fighting an opponent in April, a lower-level opponent in April, whereas, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury presumably will be fighting a high-level fight sometime around that same year. Anthony Joshua deserves a lot of credit because he unseated Vladimir Klitschko in spectacular fashion, knocking out, the heavyweight kingpin. But since then, it's just been unimpressive opponents, mildly impressive performances. He really needs a significant fight in 2019.
And finally, Floyd Mayweather, are we going to see him in the ring in 2019? And if so, against whom and in what format?
I think we will. And I think the only fight that we'll see for Mayweather is against Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao has the fight against Adrian Broner coming up. It's a Showtime pay-per-view fight, a chance to kind of reintroduce Pacquiao against a relatively known opponent in a pretty high-profile fight. If Pacquiao wins that fight convincingly, I think it'll whet the appetite of enough people that'll make it worth it financially for Floyd Mayweather to fight Pacquiao in 2019. So it's all in that January fight for Pacquiao. If he wins, I think we'll see Mayweather-Pacquiao sometime spring or summer.
There you have it, the year in the fight game. SI senior writer Chris Mannix.